Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into the world of commercial aviation.
Yeah, looking at how some of these big global shifts are, well, playing out in the skies.
Exactly. We've got a couple of really interesting, sort of contrasting stories. On one hand, the U.S.-China trade situation, how that's hitting Boeing and Chinese airlines.
And then on the other hand, you've got expansion. Etihad Airways growing its fleet, its cargo
And
operations.
Malaysia Airlines getting back into Brisbane, which is great news for them.
Right. So the sources, we've got Aviation with the details on the Boeing side of things.
And Asian Aviation covering Etihad and Malaysia Airlines. So our, let's say, mission today is to unpack these things.
See how they connect. What kind of bigger picture emerges about the industry right now?
Okay, so let's dive in. The Boeing and China situation first.
Makes sense. It's quite a story. What really, yeah, the ones that have climbed pretty steeply now between, what, 145% and 245% on some things.
Exactly. And we're seeing actual planes, Boeing 737-8s, that were meant for Xiamen Airlines.
They were already in China.
Some were, yeah, and now they're being flown back to the U.S. from China.
Wow. Okay, that's not subtle. A clear reaction to the tariffs, you think? And maybe government directives?
Seems like it. The report suggests it's tied to that, and also maybe a wider Chinese government decision to, well, refuse upcoming Boeing deliveries.
Right, hitting pause, so not just a minor hiccup.
No, apparently the instruction is pretty broad. Stop new Boeing orders, halt current deliveries.
And even buying related parts and equipment from the U.S.
Yeah, that's what the sources suggest. It seems quite comprehensive.
And we're seeing specific examples,
Okay.
like Junio Air delaying a 7879 delivery.
And they specifically cited the U.S. import tariffs as the reason, a direct link.
It shows how policy hits operations,
Yeah.
directly.
And there's more, isn't there, from other reporting?
Yeah, the Air Current mentioned, I think, 3 more 737-8s just sitting in Zhoushan, ready for delivery, but stuck.
2 other Chinese carriers?
2 others, yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently one unnamed airline even canceled a delivery commitment through a lesser, but still.
It really paints a picture of things just cooling off significantly.
And the numbers involved are pretty big. Aviation data shows Boeing has, 137 undelivered orders for Chinese airlines.
337, that's a lot of planes.
It really is. Spread across 13 different carriers.
Yeah.
There's a huge backlog just sitting there, uncertain.
Maybe we should just quickly list those, just to get a sense of the scale.
Good idea.
Okay, so you've got Air China with 5, Air China Cargo 1, China Eastern 7.
China Southern, they got a massive 35 pending.
Wow. Then Donghai Airlines 12,
Yeah.
Hinane Junyo 1, Kunming 1. Okay, Airways 12,
Really, Airlines has a huge number, 42.
42. Okay. Shandong 1, Shanghai Airlines 3, Shenzhen 2, and Xiamen, even with those 2 going back, still has 7 listed.
It really drives home the point.
Sure.
It's a major market facing a major disruption.
And there's tracking data too, right? Showing planes being moved around.
Yep, ADS-B data. A 737-8 painted for Shanghai Airlines, supposed to go to China.
Ended up where?
Victorville for storage initially, then Moses Lake. And a 787-9 for China Southern went to Fort Worth Meacham.
So these aren't just paper orders being delayed. These are actual aircraft being diverted, put into storage.
Exactly. Physical planes reflecting a big shift in plans.
Okay. So a definite contraction, or at least a major pause, for Boeing in a key market.
Tied directly to those trade issues and tariffs.
Right. Now, let's switch gears completely because elsewhere, like with Etihad Airways, the story looks very different. Expansion, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
They just took delivery of their 6th Airbus A350.
The A350. So focusing on newer, more efficient planes.
Definitely. It's all about a young, fuel-efficient fleet for them. The A350 is key to that much lower emissions. Quieter, too.
Better for the environment, but also the passenger experience sounds like a big focus.
Oh, yeah. They mentioned the business class, with privacy doors, wireless charging, all that.
The kind of stuff people look for now.
Exactly. And even in economy, better seats, device holders, Bluetooth for headphones. They're clearly investing in the onboard product.
And using these new planes to grow the network.
For sure. They're launching service to Atlanta this summer with the A350. That's their 6th city in North America.
Atlanta's a big one. And part of a wider push.
Yeah, they mentioned 16 new routes planned for this year, 2025. That's ambitious growth.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, considering what we just talked about with China.
Uh-huh.
Etihad Cargo is increasing its flights to China, despite all the trade tension.
It is. That's a really fascinating contrast, isn't it? While the passenger jet deliveries to China might be stalled for Boeing,
The demand for cargo seems strong enough for Etihad to actually boost capacity.
Exactly. It shows how different parts of the aviation market can move independently sometimes. Abu Dhabi's position as a hub really helps them tap into that cargo demand.
So how much are they increasing it by?
Quite a bit. They're going from 11 total flights, that was 2024, to a planned 18 in 2025.
Almost doubling, basically.
Pretty much. And that includes more dedicated freighter flights, extra ones to Shenzhen, to London. They're even wet leasing a 747 freighter to help.
A 747F. Wow. So they're serious about this.
Seems like it. They're targeting e-commerce, pharmaceuticals, perishables, all that stuff moving between China, Europe, and the Middle East, strengthening Abu Dhabi's role as a logistics hub.
Okay, so that's Etihad fleet modernization, passenger experience, network growth, and a big push on cargo, even into China.
A very different story from the Boeing situation.
Definitely. Now let's hop over to Southeast Asia, Malaysia Airlines and Brisbane.
Right. Another positive story here. A route resumption.
They're restarting flights between Kuala Lumpur and Brisbane.
Yep, starting late November 2025. 5 times a week with their A330-300s.
And that's expected to have a pretty decent economic impact for Queensland.
Yeah, the numbers they're quoting are pretty solid. Something like 75,000 inbound seats a year.
And about $54 million for the local economy just in the first year.
That's significant.
Oh.
And Brisbane Airport seems really pleased, highlighting Malaysia Airlines network.
Right, connecting through KL not just to Southeast Asia, but Europe too, and India.
Yeah, they mentioned connections to 10 hubs in India, which opens up a lot of options.
And it's not just about passengers, is it? Trade seems important here too.
Definitely. Malaysia is a big export market for Queensland number 7, apparently. And this flight is seen as vital for getting perishables, like beef, out quickly.
Makes sense. So it supports tourism and trade.
And it's a milestone for Brisbane Airport, too, getting back to 33 international destinations, same as pre-pandemic levels.
That's a good sign of recovery for them.
It is. And this route also has some government backing, it seems.
Oh.
Yeah, through something called the Attracting Aviation Investment Fund, a joint thing between the state government and airports to bring in flights like this.
So a strategic push to rebuild connectivity.
Exactly. And Malaysia Airlines sees it that way, too, reaffirming their commitment, positioning themselves as that gateway to Asia and beyond.
Okay, so we've covered quite a bit the headwinds for Boeing in China.
Contrasted with Etihad's growth, especially in cargo.
And Malaysia Airlines reconnecting with Brisbane. So pulling it all together, what are the main takeaways here?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just how complex and varied the global aviation picture is right now.
Not one single trend covering everywhere.
Not at all. You see geopolitical tensions directly impacting major players like Boeing in a key market. Real disruption.
But at the same time,
Other airlines, like Etihad, are finding opportunities, especially in cargo, and just pushing ahead with strategic growth. And Malaysia Airlines is rebuilding, focusing on connectivity.
so it really underlines that airlines and manufacturers need to be, well, flexible, agile.
Absolutely. Being able to navigate these different regional dynamics, the political stuff, the market demands, that seems crucial. Diversification helps too, clearly.
Right. It's a reminder that it's not all one story out there. Different regions, different pressures, different strategies.
Exactly. What works or doesn't work in China might be totally different from the Middle East or Southeast Asia.
Okay, so based on all that, maybe a final thought to leave people with.
Go for it.
How might these trade issues between the U.S. and China, if they continue or even evolve, how might that actually reshape aircraft manufacturing globally?
Interesting question. Like, long term.
Yeah, long term, could it, open the door wider for other manufacturers, maybe Airbus, maybe others, or will it just fundamentally change how airlines everywhere think about their fleets, their orders, managing risk?
That's a big question. Does it accelerate shifts that were already happening or create totally new dynamics? It definitely feels like something significant could be shifting.
Definitely something worth watching in the years ahead.
For sure. It'll be fascinating to see how the competitive balance changes.
Indeed. Well, thanks for breaking all that down. Really interesting stuff today.
Good discussion.
And thanks everyone for tuning into the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.